Today I want to talk with you about the transit of Mercury into the sign of Aquarius. Well, he will remain until April 6th. Now, this is quite a long transit for such a fast-moving planet, and this is due to the fact that Mercury will have his first retrograde of 2020 while in the sign of Aquarius. And in today's video, I want to talk with you about the qualities of Mercury, what he gives to us and what we gain from him in each and every one of our lives, how we can best utilize his energy while he's transiting the sign of Aquarius, and then look to what resource Aquarius is giving to the planet Mercury, and then we'll look at the two nakshatras that Mercury will be operating under while in the sign of Aquarius. My name is Siri Prakash. I'm a Vedic astrologer. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for visiting. Now, what is Mercury? Mercury is our cognitive planet, right? It's our discriminative mind. So where the moon is our emotional mind, Mercury is our discriminating logical mind. It's our awakened intelligence, right? It's where we're very rational, right? In our understanding and our digesting of information. Yes? Mercury for us is like a hunter. So we can think about him as a hunter. So he's always looking for new information, looking for new pathways, looking for the shortest route, looking to find the solution, right? Even we've had this experience when we're sitting in a conversation with someone and we are engaged, but yet in the back of our mind we could be thinking, where's our keys? Where'd I put my phone? This is Mercury. He's always on the go. He's always active, always awakened, always searching. And in the yogic studies, we call this the monkey mind, right? So we want to make sure that we direct Mercury and that we employ him and we engage him with things that are positively nurturing this side rather than letting him run wild, because he can be a little bit mischievous, right? Because he's like a child where he's always searching to explore and experience something new. Yes? Mercury is for us the planet of wealth, right? So for all of us, he rules wealth. And in a branch of the Vedic system called the Jaimini system, it's really called what's known as a second source of strength, right? So it's a very important planet, significant planet for our wealth and for our earnings. Mercury is how we manage and plan our lives, right? It's how we relate to other people. Mercury rules the skin, right? So what you can see with people who have a very positive Mercury influence and a very prominent Mercury influence, they can appear very much more youthful than their age. They can look much more alive and engaged. This is because Mercury rules the skin, right? So it rules the skin cells, it rules the blood cells. Anything that has a cell, Mercury rules, right? So the nacre that's covering over a pearl, this is ruled by Mercury, right? This protective layer of quality to keep the luster in. So this is where we can see that people with a very positive and dominant Mercury, they look much more younger than their age, and they also have a very playful quality that adds to it as well. You can see that people who are mystics and understanding, they also have a very strong Mercury, right? Because the astrologers, it's reading a code, right? So the mystics and the numerologists, these people who are alchemists, they're really understanding code, right? Scientists are also ruled by very dominant Mercury people. So these are where we're understanding code. So between these two worlds, it's a bridge. Yes, so in science is also in the understanding of code. It's a language of code. It's how we're managing our life, how we're organizing ourselves, how we are planning for ourselves, right? If we look at the two planets that represent our mind, Mercury and the moon, they have a very interesting history in the Vedic system, in that the moon is the mother of Mercury. And what child doesn't eventually have a problem with their mother, right? And so Mercury doesn't get along too well with the moon, but the moon gets along well with Mercury. And this means that when Mercury is in the sign of the moon, Cancer, it has a very difficult time. It struggles because it's very hard for it to see through and clearly make assessments and make judgment while in this emotional water of Cancer. And when the moon, the mother, who loves all of its children, right? What mother doesn't love their children? When the moon is operating in a Mercury-ruled sign, such as Gemini or Virgo, it does quite well because it understands and it can assess its feelings and emotions and apply logic to them. So the moon does well with Mercury, but Mercury doesn't do well with the moon. And the same can be said where Mercury is what's known as debilitated in the sign of Pisces because it's too transcendental, it's too intangible, and Mercury just floats away in a sea of abyss, and it just has nothing to anchor itself into. And Mercury wants to find something to concretely lock itself into, and it really suffers. Our organizational skills and everything just goes out the window when Mercury starts transiting in the sign of Pisces. Our communication just goes out the window when it's there. And when he's visiting this third water sign, which is Scorpio, he can be quite tense while he's in this sign. So we have to be a little bit more mindful of how our thoughts go and how our communication goes because he's a little bit more agitated. So that's just a summary of how Mercury operates in the different signs to give you an idea and understanding the qualities and energies. And perhaps this relates to one of you and how he's positioned in one of your charts. Mercury is very important when he's retrograde, when he's associated with difficult planets. So part of Mercury's nature is to retrograde. It's a regular occurrence, so it's not so significant in the Vedic system. But where it becomes significant is when he's associated with very malefic planets in a very difficult house or nakshatra. This is what's key, right? So within each solar house, there are lunar houses. And I'll talk about that in a separate video describing out in a series on the different nakshatras so that you can understand and follow along. But it's basically, we're overlaying the lunar houses with the solar houses. This is the nakshatra, it's the lunar houses. So when Mercury is in a bad position, either by sign or with associated malefic planets, or in a difficult nakshatra, this is when a Mercury retrograde or even a Mercury can become very difficult because Mercury is a very gentle planet. It's a peaceful planet. It can be very mischievous, but it's not malefic. So what's Aquarius? Now, Aquarius is very interesting in that it's the second of the Saturn-ruled signs. So the first being Capricorn, the female-ruled sign of Saturn. The second is Aquarius, and Aquarius is the male sign of Saturn, right? It's where we're looking to be individualized, where we're wanting to be independent. Yet the current that drives the sign of Aquarius is not just this individualization in a selfish way as it can be seen from the sign of Leo, right? It's really more seen from a place where it wants to be individualized because it's rebellious. It wants to be free, yes? It doesn't necessarily want to shine. It just wants to be free, and it doesn't want to be captive. But it wants to serve, and it gets its real nourishment through giving to others, right? It's through this collective consciousness that actually is the driver of Aquarius. This is what makes them very outspoken and that can make them suddenly just snap, because they're just trying to bring in something to the collective conscious awareness, either in a work setting or in a relationship. They just will suddenly burst out, right? Because it's just something where they're speaking about a common man's truth, right? So they're really driven by this very Saturnian energy of service to something that's greater outside of the ego, right? Something that's outside of itself, right? This is Aquarius, right? So it's this ambitious, out of the box thinking area of the sky that's really connecting through its roots of something that is deeper and that serves something greater than itself. Now, the two nakshatras that Mercury will be operating under, the first one is Shata Bishak. And Shata means to apply, and Bishak is the doctor, right? So it's the one who applies the remedy, yes? And its symbol is a black sun, right? So it's a black circle, right? And it's known as the place of 100 healers. It's a very iconoclastic type nakshatra, right? This lunar house is very iconoclastic, right? So it's really about coming forward and stepping forward, about leading and finding the source that heals, right? It's about connecting the tangible and the intangible. It's the place that's actually quite good for lovers, in fact. Mercury is also good for lovers because sex starts in the mind, right? But here is a great place for lovers because it's very much connected with rhythm and movement, as is the next nakshatra that we're going to talk about, Tanishta. It's a place that wants you to speak out and say what is really the truth, right? In a rational way, not an emotional way, but just cutting right to the source and just saying what it is, exposing the truth and exposing the lies. And most of this occurs when we're communicating with ourselves, right? We lie to ourselves the most, more than we lie to others. And the second nakshatra that will be operating is Dhanishta. Now, Dhanishta is symbolized by a drum, and it's really about finding our rhythm and finding our beat and connecting with our own current and our own sound. It's about creating something that is of beauty, and it's about creating something that is lasting. But through this creation, it wants you to earn, it wants you to have resource, it wants you to be successful, right? In this time of spirituality and earning money, it often has this negative connotation because we're expected, if we're spiritual and we're conscious, that we're not supposed to earn money. And this is in fact not true. God did not make a mistake by having us incarnate on a material plane to have the experience here. And part of this experience is being able to have the currency to live and enjoy and survive. Money is not the most important thing, but we need it. So we shouldn't have a negative feeling or negative relationship with it and thinking that we have to be poor to be holy or poor to be spiritual or not really recognizing our worth. And this is an important lesson that comes through Dhanishta, is that Dhanishta wants you to create something that's of beauty, create something that's meaningful and lasting, that connects with the beat of your own heart and of your own sound, and have you earn from it. This is the energy of Dhanishta and Shatabhisha. So what does it mean with Mercury transiting into the sign of Aquarius? So Mercury is asking us to really buckle down and to really create these concrete realities through managing our life better, through really taking steps to where we can actually grow in to make our dreams into a reality by putting our efforts of structure to help support, to generate resources, about engaging our skills with really connecting them to the remedy of our soul, with what we find is the beat of our heart, the rhythm of our minds. This is Dhaneshta and Shatabhishak. It wants us to connect with what is our remedy, what is going to bring us wealth, and how we can actually manifest something that's lasting and that actually helps to serve the collective consciousness. It's wanting us to grow up and not act like a child, just being entertained. It wants us to just really have a disciplined mind, a really thinking and engaged, awakened mind, so that we can realize what it is that we have longed to do. Now, with this very tragic outbreak of this virus that's occurring in the world, in my opinion, I think that it will be solved during its time of Mercury's transit into the sign of Aquarius. And I say this because it's the science sign, right? So when Mercury is in the sign of Saturn, it's a signature of a scientist. And if we look at this place of this nakshatra, this place of 100 healers, this place of where you find the remedy, and then you look at that it's being aspected by Rahu from the sign of Gemini, and Rahu in Gemini is all about discovery. I believe in this time that we will find a cure, that we will find a remedy for this virus so that people can be healed and that no more lives will be lost. I thank you very much for joining my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.